Okay everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're on GT Sport and we're back with the manufacturers race at the Red Bull Ring in the Group 4 cars. This was the first of two videos we're going to show you today. Starting from P5, we've got Adam on pole there. I think Fire was in second, ERM Nico in third place in the other McLaren, Calster in the Megane in fourth place, and myself in fifth place. So this race was going to be pretty difficult to get a good result. So if I actually tried to start this race on the hard tyre, whether this was the correct thing to do or not, I'm not sure. The reason I did it was because I thought that Calster would lose the slipstream straight away because the Megane just did not have the straight line speed, and I think that Calster also may have started on the hard tyre, which would have made it very difficult for me to get into that slipstream of P3. But maybe I should have started on the mediums or the softs and got into that slipstream. I'm not too sure. But starting from P5, let's see what we can do on the hard tyre to start with. Then we're going to go to the medium and then the softs at the end. That was the plan for this first race that we're going to show you. This was the second to last race day, so things were getting a little bit let's say we needed a result now. This is where we're coming up to the point where we want to get a good solid result. So going through turn one, trying to get a good solid exit. Obviously the hard tyres can be very difficult to drive on the opening lap, so you've got to be very careful of that rear end. It can go a little bit loose when the tyres are not up to temperature. But look at the speed difference down the straight. This is what I was worried about in terms of the straight line speed of that Megane. Might find it very difficult to stay in the slipstream with the cars in front, so trying to get that moved on early and get into that slipstream and see if we can get a good solid exit from the corner, which you can see we've actually done, and we're actually in the slipstream at the moment. However, these hard tyres are still not fully up to temperature, so it's going to be very hard to stay in their slipstream when they're probably, I think all three cars in front were on the medium tyres at the hardest, so I think some of them might, I'm not sure if some were on softs, but you can see we go way too deep into that corner and we lose a massive chunk of time there. You can see that delta increasing, so that was a big mistake, probably a very costly mistake. You can see delta dropping down to 1.1, nearly 1.2 seconds, so went way too deep into that corner. Frustrated with myself there. You can see now we're picking up the back end of the slipstream, so it's very hard to stay with this type of slipstream because they've all picking up the tow from each other, and you can see that delta is pretty much gone, especially as we go through the fast corners there with the harder tyre, and we've lost that slipstream already. So that was really frustrating. A silly mistake there, lost me the tow, and probably lost me any chance of a podium on that one mistake, because once you're out of the slipstream range like this, it was going to be extremely difficult to get any sort of time back on the leaders. So this is a bit of a struggle now. You can see down in fourth place. We've got to see what we can get out of this race. We've got Calster behind us, who, although in a car that's not particularly strong down the straight, was able to utilise the tyres on that car. So sitting in the slipstream and then probably pitting very early, getting rid of the hard tyres, maybe just doing a couple of laps on the mediums as well, and then going softs to the end. That's the guess that I would think you'd do with the strategy. So we skip ahead to the end of lap 3. We want to get rid of these hard tyres as soon as possible, so I decided to do just 3 laps on these hards down into third gear, trying to stay very narrow so that we don't go wide and block the car behind. I tried to make it as clear as possible. I was going to pit, going very wide into the pit entry. We're going to put the medium tyres on, and then we're going to obviously see what we can do on these tyres now. So we'll fast forward. The world's fastest pit stop there. Insane job by the McLaren pit crew. Out of the pits, and we're into P9. So important thing here was that we came out ahead of a group of cars. Now if we would have been a second or so back, we'd have been in a bit of an awkward position, but you can see that I think Fatal behind us hadn't changed tyres and just wanted to sit in my slipstream. So we're just going to go to the middle of the track, try and get a solid exit from turn 1, well, say technically turn 2 that. So now down into the heavy, you see a car ahead has picked up a penalty, so that is going to enable me to get a little bit closer going into the braking zone. And I think some of these cars up ahead also did have very old tyres. So skipping on a bit now, you can see we skipped to the end of lap 9, and you can see that the medium tyres are starting to wear out a bit. I decided to stay out for another lap here now, just to try and make sure that we only have to do 6 laps on the soft tyres. However, we picked up a penalty. So frustrating that we picked up that penalty there. That could be very costly because Calster obviously pitted earlier for them soft tyres, so he's going to have a massive undercut. You can see I was quite frustrated with myself there, because it also is going to drop us back from any chance of getting closer to the cars in front when we put them soft tyres on. But we'll do our best to see what we can get out of this race still. Even though we've got to take that penalty, it is only half a second penalty. It should only lose us around about half second to 0.8 of a second, depending on how we do the penalty zone. However, going into the corner, we lose control. Tried to get on the power too quick, and I've just lost a massive chunk of time. Just look at the gap was 2.3, 2.4 seconds to the car behind, and we're now going to have dirty tyres now from going wide off the track, which you have to bear in mind. So you're going to have to brake a little bit early here, having to get on the brakes nice and early and take it very cautious through this corner, because obviously with them dirty tyres the chances of running wide are very high. And you can see that gap is now down to just a few tenths, so we've lost nearly 2 seconds, all because of a penalty and a silly mistake out of that corner, and that is going to drop us away from any chance of picking up the slipstream to the leaders when we put them soft tyres on. So frustrating for myself here. We're obviously going to be in a bit of a it's going to be pretty much impossible to get a podium. However, it's now all going to be the battle with Calster. Where will he emerge in that in the Megane? Will he be ahead of us, and how far ahead will he be? He's probably going to be quite a bit ahead, obviously going on them soft tyres very early. You can see that Adam pitting now for the soft tyres, probably going to put the hard tyres or the medium tyres onto the end. We go through the corner into the pits, and now we're going to put them soft tyres on for our final stint of this race. So again, we're going to fast forward that, get rid of that pit stop nice and quickly, out of the pits, and now we're on to them soft tyres, and we come out of the pits in P6, just behind the Alpha, and we've got Calster up ahead. So this Alpha shouldn't be that difficult to overtake really, with fresh soft tyres and the lack of speed that car has. However, as most people know, the Alpha is very strong through corners and obviously fast-paced corners, so it's going to be pretty hard to keep very close to it through the cornering. But as long as we stay pretty close on the through turn 1, we should be able to get moved on, especially if his tyres are quite old, like Calster's ahead. But you can see the Calster has got quite a big gap, so he must have pitted very early for them soft tyres to try and get a big undercut. Now we've got to really just push and push and push and see if we can make up any ground on him. It's going to be a bit of a battle. Obviously the Megane is very strong on tyres, but the McLaren is pretty good on tyres, and the McLaren was actually pretty strong around this track. So we're going to fast forward while we follow behind this Alpha until we get to a position where we can possibly go for a move. You can see how fast that, even on worn tyres through the fast corners, it's pretty competitive. But going into turn 1, you can see I think he makes a little mistake, he misses the apex a bit, gets all a little bit loose. That gives us a nice run now. We're going to be easily able to go past on the straight, pure power of the McLaren. Pretty good car in terms of torque. So up past into P5, and now we've got to see if we can catch up Calster in P4. This is going to be very difficult. You can see that the gap is over 3 seconds, so we've got quite a lot of work to do. I think it's nearly 3.5 seconds there, the gap. So we're going to have to push 100% now. This is 100% concentration, see if we can make up any time. As we fast forward, you can see just trying to get every sector, trying to keep it nice and clean all the way through the lap. And you can just see, even on this when we're fast forwarding it, just how the gap is slowly coming down to Calster, especially in the fast corners, in the straight line sections. That is where we're gaining the time on Calster over the rest of the lap. Through the corners it seems pretty strong, and also traction zones. McLaren is very good in traction zones, so you can see it's just getting shorter, gaining on him every single lap. We're putting reasonable lap times in there. You can see a 35.1 even with that overtake in there. So did get a little bit of slipstream from his car on that lap, but nothing massive. But a pretty good lap there for our first lap on the soft tyres, and now we're just trying to push as close as possible to Cal. So you can see it's just reeling him in every single lap. We're getting closer and closer. But look at the top left hand, you can see we're on lap 14 now. We have only got 2 laps to go after this lap. Can we get close enough to picking up that slipstream? It's going to be so close. You can see we're just knocking off temps every single lap. It's getting so close. All we needed to do was pick up the slipstream really on this lap, as you can see, going into turn 2 technically, into braking zone, onto the throttle nice and early, and you can see that we've almost got that slipstream now, and we've got just over 1 3/4 of a lap to go. Can we manage to pick up the slipstream to Calster enough to give us an opportunity to overtake? You can see we've got the slipstream now. Will we be able to maintain it through the corners? We should be able to. The tyres are looking pretty warm. We've done some very nice lap times actually. All 3 laps have been in the 35s without any slipstream there. So pushing hard on these tyres. You can see the tyres do look pretty warm where I was driving quite aggressively for them few laps. However, I had to do it. We had to push 100% to see if we could get into the slipstream of Calster. We've got that slipstream just about. You can see we lose it through the cornering obviously still because the Megane is so strong. However, on the acceleration zones we should get that slipstream back, as the Megane just suffers with literally no power down the straight. So just over 1 lap to go now. Can we manage to get past Calster in that Megane? He's going to be suffering with tyres. We're also suffering with tyres. You can see my tyres are starting to fade off a bit now. We're coming up to our 6th lap. We've done 5 laps completed, and we're about to start our 6th lap on the soft tyres, which was pretty much the limit if you wanted to drive them aggressively. You can see that I've been doing pretty consistent lap times there in the 35s, low 36. So the tyres have been giving me reasonable pace still, even though they are pretty worn. And as we're now working our way up the straight, we're going to probably go purple for here because we've got a massive slipstream from Calster, pretty much at the perfect range now to pick up the toe from him all the way into turn 1. So let's see, we're going to probably go purple in the braking zone. Yeah, we've gone purple there, obviously, all down to pretty much having the slipstream into the braking zone, trying to get good traction. You see the front tyres didn't give me the grip I wanted in the braking, but we're still going to try our best to see if we can get as close as possible to that McGann. You can see Kelsey going all the way over to the right hand side of the track, making sure that he's in the defensive position, but he's realised he's far enough ahead there. Can't really lunge it from this far back. We're going to just keep concentrating on trying to get a good exit from these corners, getting quite a solid exit from that corner. Now we're going to see if we can get close enough into the braking zone for this corner. Can we go for a move? No, we're just a little bit too far back there. You can't throw it back into that corner. It's not really a heavy braking zone. It's a third, fourth gear corner, so too risky to go for a move there. Through this corner now, the really fast left-hand corner, onto the throttle nice and early. This is another opportunity that the McLaren might be able to have over the McGann with the acceleration advantage. You can see the extra speed that we're going to take into the final sector now. We're going to go for have a little look up the inside there. Can we go for a move? We just kind of wanted to put him off a bit, but again, there was no point really chucking it up the inside there. It would have just ended in disaster as we then work our way through the final few corners. And we come home in a 5th place. We made a charge at the end. It didn't work. We tried our best. Unfortunately, only P5 in that race. Not really the position that I would have wanted in this race. Points were about 284, I think, something like that. So let's have a little look here now. 287. But decided to go again. Now, we have to get a good result in this. Now, qualifying was a bit of a disaster, if I'm brutally honest. We somehow managed to start this race in P4. I'm not sure quite how that happened because the lap times were so bad. I think everyone just missed a slipstream. No one really got a slipstream. It was all a bit chaotic, and we start from P4, which somehow happened. I don't really know how. That lap time wouldn't have even been in the top 10, I think, in the previous race we were in. But we'll take that and see what we can do out of this race. We've got a Scirocco starting on pole position. Now, that car, pretty strong over the lap. It is one of the better FF cars on tyre wear. However, it is still an FF car, and this tyre wear situation for this race was quite high. So it's probably going to be the case that we might be able to get past the Scirocco and see what we can do. You know, maybe able to get at least a podium out of this race. We've got the Lexus and the Ferrari in front of us, so there's a chance of getting a solid result here. I felt if we could drive the perfect race, there's a win possible in this race if we drive it well with the right strategy. So this time we started on the medium tyre. We're not starting on the hard tyres because the hard tyres would find it hard to possibly stay with the drivers if they were on soft tyres. I did not know the tyres that they were on at the front. I didn't want to lose any slipstream, so decided to go on the mediums because the mediums had the potential to stay with the soft tyre runners. So this could work out if any of them are on the soft tyres, as it looks like the Scirocco, possibly on the hard tyres, didn't seem to get the grip out of the tight right hand corner there. Having a little look up the right hand side, can we go for a move into this braking zone? No, we're a little bit too far back again. Just trying to make him aware that we're there. We're not going to do anything stupid on lap 1. We want to make sure that we make it to the end of this race and pick up some solid points. One thing to remember is this is the final race of the day. As we take a little look at that replay camera on the opening lap, you can see drivers very close together. We've got 5 cars. Seem to be creating a little bit of a gap to the next group. You can see the slipstream gap from the Alpha seems to be dropping back. That's probably because the Alpha just doesn't have the straight line speed, so finding it very hard to stay in this group at the front. But look, again, looking absolutely amazing Gran Turismo on the replay camera at this setting that we had here for the Red Bull Ring. With the time of day, it looks absolutely stunning again. So now through to the final corners, about to end lap 1. Can we just stay with the slipstream and try and make some moves up in this race? It's going to be really important if we can get past drivers as fast as possible, especially if some of these drivers up ahead were on the hard tyres. So we're going to fast forward it now as we work our way up the main straight and then into the braking zone. You can see up ahead that the Scirocco again seems to struggle with this turn 2. It doesn't seem to be able to get the entry. So my guess is he was on the hard tyres, and again on traction on the exit, just can't get the power down, and we managed to get ourselves up into P3. We take advantage of Bottle Sparks going for the move and put ourselves up into P3 in this race also. So now I think that every driver in front of us is on the same tyre as us. It didn't look like anyone was on the soft tyres as far as I could tell. I'm not 100% sure what P1 was on, whereas P1 has a little bit of a lag moment there. But I was pretty confident the Ferrari in front of me was on the medium tyres also, but by the way that it was driving, you can normally tell by a car's behaviour through the corners what tyres are on. So it looks like that P2 is also on the mediums. It does look like that the Scirocco behind us is possibly on the hard tyres, although it is very hard to tell on that car because it's FF, and with the front wheel drive it's quite hard to get a grasp of what tyres he might be on. It does look like they could be hard tyres with the way that it's handling through the faster corners and also the traction zones getting on the power, but it possibly could have been the mediums as well. Not 100% sure as we now go through to the final corner, trying to make sure we hook up that apex and not running wide. We almost run too far wide. That is going to be a close one to picking up a penalty. Fortunately this time we get away with that and we do not get the penalty, so extremely close there as we now skip ahead to lap 4. You can see that we've got a car in P1 with the penalty. Francis has picked up a penalty somewhere, probably a track limit violation, possibly out the final corner or through turn 1. He's going to have to take a penalty here, so we're going to have to try and take advantage of this as Bottle Sparks goes over to the right. He's going to try and get through. We're going to do the same thing back into the slipstream, and we're going to go for a move down the right hand side into the braking zone. Can we make this work? Braking as late as possible. We've got to give him space on the outside, trying to hold. We're almost onto the grass there, trying to give him space, giving him space on the exit as well, onto the power, short shifting now we pick up a bit of slipstream from P1 and he's had to give up that position, so now into P2 in this race. So far everything going very, very well. Bottle Sparks in P1 in that Ferrari. We had a great race with him, following him at Catalunya in the Group 3 race also. So now we need to see if we can make our way past through maybe a different strategy or doing something a little bit different in this race. The McLaren, it's a hard one with tyre wear with the Ferrari. The Ferrari can be pretty good. I think in Group 4 the McLaren possibly a little bit better on its front tyres than the Ferrari, so this should be pretty interesting now. Can we get a good result? Can we maintain this pace? What tyres are people on behind us? It's all going to come to play as we get to the last stage of this race, and this is a fun thing about this race. Although the tyre wear was quite high, the strategy element of different people on different tyres at different times was quite interesting as we now come to the end of lap 6 and we're about to be coming into the pit stop phase. You can see that P1 seems to be struggling with the rear traction as well coming out of that corner. McLaren was actually still okay at this stage. It seemed to be driving pretty well, so didn't really have any worries with regards to tyres. It was driving okay. I felt like we could go for another lap and then give ourselves fresher tyres at the end when we do the soft run. That was going to be the plan, to go either mediums to hards to softs or medium softs and then hard. So it's all going to be a pretty tactical decision when we go into the pits. What tyres do I put on? As we try and go around the outside, you can see that Ferrari is definitely struggling on the tyres. If he pitted this lap, I think I decided that I was going to stay out anyway and just try and do another extra lap and then possibly go onto the softer tyre on the middle stint. It was going to be risky, but let's have a little look now as we come to the pits. Will he pit on lap 6? He does look like he's struggling in terms of the tyres. The tyres do seem to be fading quite badly, whereas the tyres on the McLaren still felt pretty strong. Going into the corner, you see that he took a very tight line, had to get off the power. We actually tapped the rear of him. A pretty dodgy pit entry, to be fair, at the Red Bull Ring, and now we go for that extra lap. I decided to do this. Will it pay off? It can sometimes actually be pretty bad because you can put yourself in dirty air from, like, obviously more cars as they've done the undercut, or it could actually work out. It all depends where they come out on track when they do their stops, what tyres they go on. I didn't catch what tyres that he went back onto after he came out the pit, so I decided at this point, being in P1 now, I decided let's put the soft tyres on and see if we can do a bit of a breakaway, see if we can put some solid lap times in and see if we can get a reasonably good stint on the soft tyres. Now we're gonna have to try and do 6 laps on these softs, so into the pits, soft tyres on, out the pits, and where will we come out in this race as we rejoin the track? You can see that we've rejoined just behind Bottle Sparks. Now what tyres will he be on? So we haven't actually lost out that much from obviously doing the extra lap, which is okay. We've come out pretty much exactly where we were, but now it's all about, can we get past him? Looking at his grip now into the braking zone, I was pretty confident that he wasn't on the soft tyres and maybe he had gone on the hard tyres, so I needed to get past him as soon as possible. You can see picking up that slipstream, we're going to go for a move into the braking zone. It looked like he wasn't even going to defend it, so what he's probably going to try and do here now is he's going to let me go and try and stay in my slipstream for as long as possible. Now this is one thing we did not want. We did not want him to be able to stay in that slipstream because he's going to be getting pace that he shouldn't be getting off them hard tyre stint, and then at the end when he's on the soft tyres, he's going to have maybe be able to get a jumper somehow. So we need to be very careful here. Let's see if we can try and break that slipstream. You can see the extra grip we get through the corners is really helping out, obviously gaining 2 tenths through the corners, but then As soon as we get on the straight with this slipstream system that Gran Turismo is currently incorporating in the game, it's just a little bit too strong. You can see that it just gains back a tenth or two every single straight. So it's very difficult, even when you've got two sets of tyres that are soft. So we're on the soft, he's on the hard, and he's actually able to stay with us for quite a while on the straight, but we're going to keep pushing. We should be able to break the slipstream once we get through to the faster corners. That is where we should be able to start breaking away and get rid of that slipstream, and then start to put in the lap times and concentrate on building up some sort of gap. So through turn 1, again trying to push very aggressively over the curbs, a little bit too aggressive there, maybe losing a little bit of time, didn't really get the exit speed that I would have liked, and you can see that gap again starting to come back down. Even though we increased it on the entry and the exit, it starts to come back down when he's picking up that toe all the way into the heavy braking zone. This again is a zone that the soft tyres are really going to help you out, and then on the traction as early as possible. And again, we've nearly got that gap up to 1 second, but again, we still not broke that slipstream. This is really showing just how strong that slipstream is on this game. So this is going to be an awkward situation. We need to get rid of the slipstream as soon as possible, so that at the end, when we're on the hard tyres, we've got a little bit of a gap to help us defend against him if he's on the soft tyres. Now the advantage we're going to have when we do our stint is we're going to have fresh hards versus worn softs. His soft tyres are going to be a few laps old, so hopefully that's going to give us a little bit of a buffer in terms of being able to defend with the McLaren on the harder tyres. It'll be interesting how that plays out. You can see that we've pretty much lost the slipstream now. It's at 1.5 seconds, and that is the range that we needed to get it to. So now we need to push 100% all the way through this stint, and try and get ourselves a solid gap, and we possibly could pick up the win in this top split FIA manufacturers race. It's going to be difficult though. It's going to be a battle at the end when we get onto them hard tyres. It's going to be very, very interesting to see how this race develops. As we pick up the fastest lap of the race, obviously pretty predictable that at the end when you're on the soft tyres you're going to be doing faster laps, but also it probably wasn't as fast as it could have been because we were having to weave around a little bit to try and break that slipstream. So now you can see the difference without the slipstream, how it was increasing, and by the time we pit, we can see the gap that we've developed. Obviously Bottle Sparks has pitted for them soft tyres, so he's on the soft tyres already. We're going to carry on. We've got one more lap to go on these soft tyres. This is where we have to keep it nice and smooth. You can see the gap to IA Racing is over 7 seconds, but he still needs to pit also. I think he's going to jump in the pits this lap. You can see into the pit lane goes IA Racing, and that is going to promote Bottle Sparks up into P2. So the interesting thing is, what will the gap be as we work our way up this straight to see what the gap to Bottle Sparks will be? You can see that it's around 13 seconds now. The pit lane loss is around 11.5. He's on the softer tyres at the moment that are brand new. We're on soft tyres that are very worn. Can we keep some solid pace to maybe make sure that we come out the pits? We need to try and get out this pits in front of Bottle Sparks. It's going to be difficult. We're obviously going to be on the hard tyres. He's going to be on the soft tyres. He's been doing a couple of laps on fresher soft tyres, so he's going to be starting to catch us back up. This is going to be extremely interesting how this works out. Will we have the pace to hold off someone on the soft tyres, and will we be able to defend very well? Now, defensive driving is pretty, I would say it's one of my strengths on this game. As we fast forward into the pit stop phase, we're going to now put on them hard tyres and go to the end. As we cut the corner there, I thought that we might get a penalty for that. You can see we went into the corner for the pit lane entry, went over the grass too much, nearly lost the car, and I thought we possibly might get a penalty at this stage. So I was a little bit worried that we could be picking up half a second penalty, which would be disastrous at this stage if we're going to exit the pit right next to him. But so on with the hard tyres, out the pit exit. Where are we going to leave the pits? This is going to be insanely close, and it's going to be a right back. You can see on the track map just how close this is. They come through turn 1. We're accelerating up the hill, almost going off the track there as we were looking back to see where the other cars was. You can see that he's got the slipstream. However, it looks like it's going to be very difficult for him to go for a move into turn 1. He has done a few laps on them soft tyres, so they are going to be starting to fade. However, they are going to be a lot stronger than the hard tyres for a few laps, so we need to try and make sure that we get a nice solid outlap. The hard tyres do take that lap to warm up, so this is going to be incredibly close. Can we defend? You can see going all the way over to the right hand side of the track. We're in P1 in this race. This is going to be, if I can hold on to this result, this would be an amazing result for the McLaren with the strategy we ran as well. It's paid off so far. However, now we've got to get the defensive part of this strategy sorted and make sure that we don't gift him any easy overtakes with a stupid mistake or anything like that. We've got to keep it nice and calm, defensive driving, hold the apex, lift on the apex, and then get back on the throttle to make ourselves strong on the exit. It's going to be very tactical driving. You can see just trying to keep the lines nice and smooth. Through corners like this, he's going to have so much more grip and acceleration speed, but we've got to keep it calm, make sure that we utilize what the McLaren has in terms of the torque of the car, all the way over to the right hand side of the track, and again making it a drag battle into this final corner. You can see hasn't got the speed to get past us there. Down into fourth gear, third gear to try and give ourselves a bite on the apex and good acceleration out the corner. Again down into third gear for this final corner, then into fourth gear, accelerating all the way over to the right hand side of the track now, trying to avoid him getting that slipstream. Is he going to be close enough? It looks like he's a little bit too far back. We go over to the left hand side, it's 1.1 back, but again you can't really go for a dive into a corner like this from 1/10 back. You need to be a little bit further alongside. So through turn one, he gets a good strong exit off there. We're going to go to the right hand side to defend that. The Ferrari just doesn't have the straight line speed out of the slipstream. You can see it needs a slipstream to be able to get an overtake past the McLaren. The McLaren is actually quite strong in this race. So into the braking zone, braking as late as possible. We're in the middle of the track now. We're giving them the space on the left hand side, 3 wide there at that point. Scirocco helped me out there by being on the outside of the Ferrari, given that tighter line that the Ferrari had to take. So that really did help me out, and we managed to get a strong exit. Now into the braking zone, we're going to have to stay to the right hand side. We've got to defend like crazy now for the final 2 laps. This is super intense. Into the braking zone, down to second gear, and again we're going to hold the apex so that he can't get on the power nice and early. Tries to get on the power, but we held the apex nicely, defended perfectly, couldn't get on the power, actually gave us a little tap up the rear, but that is defensive driving at its best, keeping the tight line, holding the apex before we get on the throttle, and keeping P1. So at the moment we've managed to defend against that Ferrari, and now we come into the stage now where that Ferrari will starting to struggle a little bit on them softer tyres. You can see it through some of the faster corners. It hasn't got the same front end as it did earlier on when we came out the pit. So now we've just got to do one more lap defending like crazy from this Ferrari behind us. The hard tyres have warmed up now. They should be able to get into the late 36, early 37s, but at the moment we're defending with everything we've got to try and make sure that we keep him behind. So we're probably losing a lot of time with all this weaving, defensive driving, taking lines that we wouldn't normally take, and now we've just got to do this for one more lap to hold on to a very, very good result. If we can hold on to this P1, it'll be amazing considering the strategy that we've ran, and having to hold off drivers on the soft tyres at the end when we're on the hard tyres will be an incredible job. So working our way up now into turn 2 again, into the heavy braking zone. It looks like we're a little bit too far ahead for him to go for a dive, and we can brake quite late. His tyres are starting to fade a bit now, so we've got to try and get a very strong exit from this corner onto the throttle extremely early. Actually did that very nicely in with the hard tyres considering, and giving ourselves a little bit of a buffer there. You can see that's given myself a nice range that we don't really need to worry about going defensive into this corner now. So I can actually take the normal line into the braking zone, braking nice and early, down into second gear, and again we've just got to hold the apex and get on the power nice and early, maximum throttle all the way to the edge of the track, and doing that extremely well. It's just a few more corners to hold on now for this win in this FIA manufacturer's top split race. Down into third gear, trying to bite the apex, the car into the apex, up into fourth gear early, trying to get a good solid exit speed, and then into the final corner, down into fourth gear. Sorry, not the final corner, a few corners still to go, but this is going to be incredibly close now as we come through to the final 2 corners. Have we got the speed? It looks like he's just a little bit too far back. You can see that the gap has increased to P3 and P4. We've managed to secure at least the top 2 position, and now we've just got one more corner to go. Not really in a position to go for a move there, making sure we don't make any mistakes. It's so important that we didn't run wide and pick up a penalty, and now it's just a case of drag racing to the finishing line, and we pick up an absolutely amazing victory in this FIA manufacturers race. 100% happy with that. The race pace wasn't amazing, but we did start from P4. We did have to try and go for a bit of a slower strategy to try and give ourselves a win by holding them up at the end, and it's 100% paid off. The win for McLaren in Group 4, 100% happy with that, and that boosts our manufacturers' points up quite nicely for the season. 333 points gained in that race, 3 positions gained. Very, very happy with that race. So hope you enjoyed them races. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the notification button if you haven't already done so. And I'll see you all very soon for more FIA manufacturer races live on stream, and also more videos on the channel. Thanks again for watching, everyone.